This video is brought to you by Devout Decals, makers of reusable Catholic art for your home altar, your bedroom, and your home classroom.
Many Catholics are scandalized by things happening in the church. They find that these dark times in the church and these dark times in the secular world make them think that either A, God has abandoned his faithful, or that perhaps God doesn't exist, or perhaps the Catholic Church isn't what she claims to be, and so they leave for Eastern Orthodoxy, only to be shocked when they discover the same problems that plague the Catholic Church. Sure, divided amongst the different Orthodox groups, but they're the same problems. And so it then leads them to despair and possibly even to leave the faith. I have a very cogent letter for you that I've been holding on to for a few days, but all this Olympic darkness and other things really just delayed my publishing this, so I'm going to give this to you here instead of the way I was going to originally. This is an open letter for some faithful Catholics in Europe to those who are suffering in these times. Their message is to hang steadfast in the faith. Stick rigidly to the faith. That it is our adversary, Satan, that wants you to leave. That is ultimately he who is whispering in your ear that the time is now to leave the faith. Ignore him. Cling to the cross of our Lord. Cling to the faith. Immerse yourself more deeply in the lives of the saints. Do whatever it is you need to do to stay in the church. Here is that open letter. A short letter to those who suffer in these times, as posted to Info Vaticana about a week ago. When he seeks refuge in the church, he looks around. In a certain way, the panorama does not look better than the one outside. He no longer knows if the situation is worse inside or outside. He does not know what to do or think. He thinks that it is the end of everything, that there is no remedy for the current circumstances. We are already fed up with hearing about the calamities of the current ecclesial situation. They're getting worse every day. But in the opinion of this author, just to summarize what is already repeated daily in so many trusted media, there's only one blunt term to describe it. This would be metastasis. There is almost no consolation or good news around us, which is not healthy for the body or the mind, and it is even worse for the soul. St. Francis de Sales, with his innumerable lessons, teaches us the patience and hope that we must have in the midst of so many tribulations, both internal and external. Our beloved saint teaches us, do not lose your inner peace for anything in the world, not even for your own faults. This phrase alone helps us to overcome the difficulties we experience in the world, and especially within the church, with the greatest calm possible, without undermining the fighting spirit that every good Catholic must have by obligation. The following letter comes from the great Saint Athanasius, a saint who is resonant in these times for various reasons. The example of this prelate is a lesson for Catholics who wish to fight for the real Christ and the restoration of Christianity, no matter what the hierarchy does against us, but we will remain firm in the faith until the last consequences. The words of the wise men of old can become more forceful today because of their accurate perception of things. Let us read and meditate carefully on the following text. Letter from St. Athanasius to his parishioners. May God comfort you. What saddens you is the fact that others have occupied the churches by force, while during this time you are outside. It is a fact that they have the buildings, but you have the apostolic faith. They may occupy our churches, but they are outside the true faith. You remain outside the places of worship, but the faith dwells within you. Let us consider. What is more important, the buildings or the faith? The true faith, obviously. Who has lost and who has won in the struggle? The one who keeps the buildings or the one who keeps the faith? True, the facilities are good when the apostolic faith is preached in them. They are holy if everything in them develops in a holy manner. You are the fortunate ones, you who remain within the church for your faith, who stand firm on the foundations of the faith that has come to you from the apostolic tradition. And if an inexorable envy has tried to shake it on several occasions, it has not succeeded. It is they who have separated themselves from it in the present crisis. No one will ever prevail against your faith, beloved brothers, and we believe that God will give us back our churches one day. Thus, the more violently they try to occupy places of worship, the more they separate themselves from the church. They claim to represent the church, but in reality it is they who are expelled from it and go astray. Although Catholics faithful to tradition are reduced to a handful, they are the ones who constitute the true Church of Christ. the famous letter of St. Athanasius to his followers during the crisis of the heretic Arius. The words we have just read could not be clearer. This is said by a holy bishop who was exiled and excommunicated several times, offering everything at the feet of Jesus Christ. What illustrious advice and consolation we have heard from this champion of the truth of the gospel. We must think about the following. This brave man of God in his time was despised, insulted, and severely mistreated by those who enjoyed the approval of the high hierarchs of the world and of the Church, even by the Roman pontiff himself at the time. All of them have now passed away. St. Athanasius was canonized and declared a doctor of the Church, while his persecutors went down in history as the heretics and traitors they were in life. This is how divine justice works within the Church. This and other examples should serve as a reminder to us. Inspiration to fight for Catholic tradition in its fullness, no matter what others say, especially those in charge who do not do their duty, is a good thing. St. Athanasius' exhortation makes us look in the mirror of what we really are, which provides us with comfort in this current turmoil. We are not the group of the perfect, elite, or saved. We are terrible sinners. We are the same old Catholics who bear the duty of preaching what has always been affirmed within the Catholic Church. Wouldn't you say that this is a responsibility worthy of envy by the most acclaimed saints in history? Whether we have celebrated the Mass of always in a garage, in a ranch outside the city, in an abandoned building in the attic of a jewelry store, we have the duty to do it for the love of the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ, who gave everything for us. Not only to celebrate the traditional Holy Mass in some place suitable for the protection of the parishioners, but to preach the counter-revolutionary doctrine that inflames hearts with zeal for souls. To reach the perennial magisterium, whether by virtual means in weekend classes, in homes, in study halls, the place does not matter as long as the doctrinal corpus is the same as it was 2,000 years ago. Let us not allow ourselves to fall into the despair provoked by the devil in order to discourage us from the good fight. None of these moves by the adversary and his henchmen should be an impediment to persevering in the fight the Holy Mother Church has always given. Peace can and must dwell in our hearts as we face the deadly adversaries of the redemptive cross of our Lord. As we read in the letter, there are joys in abundance for us to feel proud of the work that God places in our hands, as the responsibility of each person who has received the grace of tradition. Let us ask the Blessed Virgin Mary that the words of St. Athanasius may resonate in the souls of hundreds of faithful to imitate this gallant lady of all creation in her incessant work for the restoration of the Church of Christ, our Lord. Peace in battle, tranquility in darkness, and serenity in the face of threats. And that was, I think, a very important letter for all the faithful who are scandalized by things we see in the Church today, for those who contemplate leaving the faith, who flirt with joining some schismatic group, who may have valid sacraments, but reject defined dogmas that have been defined for many decades or centuries. Not just the innovations of the post-conciliar era, or especially the innovations of Pope Francis and his coterie of malcontents. They reject many Catholic dogmas, and in joining them, you surrender the rosary, you surrender many, many, many devotions that may have been formative in your Catholic life. Or maybe people flirt with the temptation to leave the faith altogether. Do not give in to such temptations. Cling to the faith. Do what you have to preserve the faith in your heart and in your household. Even when you run into obstacles from the hierarchy, men who are supposed to defend and preserve the faith, cling to that faith. Hope you found this useful today. Let me know what you thought of this in the comments, please. Like and subscribe if you haven't. It certainly helps. So does sharing this on social media. That helps enormously too. And as always, pray for the Church. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.